Hey, BookTube Science Fiction Reads here with the second half of this recent book haul of mine. So the earlier one was all mostly anthologies, and what I have here is just a bunch of paperbacks. So let's get right into it. I've got TJ Bass, Half Past Human. I got this recently from the same bookstore, but then I gave it to a friend who's been looking for it and can't find it where he is. So I'm happy to have found basically the same book in the same condition. This is, I'm trying to think if this is the sequel or the one that comes before The God Whale, but they're two linked novels, and I think they're the only science fiction T.J. Bass wrote, if I remember correctly. Then a really random find, Herman Hesse, Siddhartha. I really only picked this up because although this is from, let me see, the 70s? I think this is a copy from 1971. It's bent and warped out of shape, but it feels and looks brand new otherwise, which is really, hard to find a book like that. And not really science fiction, but the synopsis interested me, and I think I've read about this before in Wikipedia, so when will I read it? Possibly never. This was a curious one, Starbridge, a novel by Jack Williamson and James E. Gunn. I've not read much of either. I've only read one Jack Williamson way early on in my SF reading career. It was Brave New World, I think, and it was absolutely terrible. I hated it. I can't remember anything about it or remember why, but I did not get along with it. But yeah, I just recently read some James E. Gunn, so we'll see. I'm trying to remember now what this was about. I believe it has something to do with somebody who's not very reputable or respectable being sent on a mission to assassinate an alien emperor or something. Then I've got a Clifford Simak here that it's taken a long time for me to find, The Goblin Reservation. This is a, what is this, Berkeley copy from 70-something, I would imagine. From 68, printed in Canada. Short, as are, all his books. This one comes recommended from Sean Standfast himself, my go-to expert on all things Clifford Simak. And this, for his age, is in really good shape, so I'm quite pleased to find that. Another Hal Clement. I don't mind Hal Clement. I've enjoyed most of what I've read of his. This is an Avon copy of Needle, which I wasn't sure if I had this, but looking at my shelves, I don't. It was first published in 57, but this can't possibly be a copy from 57, so I'm not sure when this was printed. But knowing Hal Clement, it's bound to have some biological mysteries and some interesting aliens. Then I got a few Daw Yellow Spines, which I always love. Another CJ Cherry that I did have this at one point years ago and got rid of it. But then as the Yellow Spine cherries just started adding up on my shelf, I just started picking up any of them anytime I find one that's in good shape. I don't remember what this is about, but I look forward to putting it, right. Those are all CJ Cherry Yellow Spines. Then we have an interested one, short stories edited by Richard D. Nolan, Terra SF2, the year's best European SF. And if I recall correctly, there's not much in here familiar to me. So there's actually not a table of contents page, at least not a proper one. So this is really hard to read. I'll hold it up, but yeah, it doesn't look like any of these authors are familiar to me, which is pretty cool. This is how you find one of your favorite stories or authors that you would otherwise never have found, is by taking a chance on something random like this. I've not read anything by Anson DeBell, but this is Pursuit of the Screamer, a high SF adventure on par with Andre Norton and Marion Zimmer Bradley. Two people I've actually not read. but I couldn't resist. It's in decent shape. It might not be that great. Oh boy. These dog books often have an illustration at the front. That's a little haunting. So yeah, I'm not entirely sure what this is about, but I don't know. It's interesting. I need to look that up, and I love the cover art. Do we have credit? Not often. Oh, we do. Gino de Kelly. Yeah, I like that. And then one more here that I think is really cool looking. The Transition of Titus Crow by Brian Lumley. So we've got some Lovecraft-ish inspired stuff, which I looked it up. Not the greatest reviews, but great title, great cover art. I'm going to hold on to it and check it out sometime. And this one does have a great illustration. Got a guy looking out a window at maybe an alien creature and holding some sort of star or something. I love it. This was a nice find. Larry Niven and Stephen Barnes, The California Voodoo Game. This is a Dream Park novel. I want to read Dream Park. I have it. Where do I have it? I thought I had it. Oh yeah, it's right here. I do want to get around to reading this. I just watched a review by Omnivorous Reader. Omnivorous? God. I watch her all the time. Can't think of her channel name. I will link her. Omnivorous Reads. I can't remember. Oh, God. I want to read this. I have the direct sequel. I can't remember now how many of these Dream Park books there are, but now I have 3 of them. Here's an interesting one from New English Library. It's SF Master Series or Master SF Series. It's Borderline by Vercours. We're going to have to open it up to get his full name because I can't remember what it is. But this is a curious one. I think it's somewhat anthropological, which is right up my alley. It sounds like it could be similar to Chad Oliver. Sounds like it could be similar to his type of stuff. Borderline by Vercours. Yeah, why am I not finding his full name here? I'm not finding his name, and it's driving me crazy, but yeah, this one sounds good. Series edited by Brian Aldiss and Harry Harrison. In the synopsis, the discovery made by an anthropological expedition to New Guinea had implications which shocked and threatened to disrupt 20th century society, for they discovered the missing link between people and animals. In some respects, it was almost human, in others ape-like, a creature on the borderline between man and animal which raised impossible doubts as to the nature of man and his place in the universe. So, that sounds epic. It's got interesting cover art. This is one I may try quite soon. Published, it looks like originally published in 53, and this copy was from 76. Yeah, I need to look into this anymore. If you know much about the author, whose name I cannot find the full version of, which is driving me crazy, I'll have put it up by the time this video comes up. But yeah, let me know if you know anything about the book or the author. Dean Koontz, Warlock. I've not read any Dean Koontz. I'm not interested in supernatural stuff so much. I have a coworker who raves about him and offered me a bunch of his books. But this is early stuff. He wrote several science fiction early on. It would be interesting to check out. This is an old Lancer copy with some excellent 70s cover art. We do not have any credit for the cover artist, but yeah, it's a Lancer book from 72, science fantasy, I believe. I have a lot of John Wyndham. I haven't read any yet, but one of the ones I don't have is the Chrysalids. And I'm happy to have it in a Penguin version because I have a lot of his books in Penguin. Although this is an X-Library, so it's quite beat up. But yeah, it's one I don't have. It's got some writing and I noticed a lot of annotations all throughout it. But yeah, one I didn't have. And then here's a curio from A. Merritt, The Ship of Ishtar, which I remember looking this up and being very interested in it like a year ago. I don't remember not much now, but I believe it's mixing myth with an adventure sort of thing. An American interacting with some sort of mythological entity or something. And it's just cool to find, you know, an old copy that's in relatively good condition. This is an Avon book. Actually, this is from 1973. I would have thought it was earlier. First printed in 66, but the story is copyright 1924. Yeah, this sounds awesome. I've only read short stories from Merritt, and they were science fiction. All right, another weird collaboration. This is Nightmare Blue by Gardner Dozois and George Alec Effinger. I believe it involves some agents trying to uncover an alien plot involving a drug that's killing humanity or something. This is copyright 1975 and printed in 1975. I have not read probably anything by Gardner Dozois, and I think, as I said earlier in this video, or possibly the previous video, I did recently read a George Alec Effinger trilogy that I quite enjoyed. Then we've got a George Zabrowski, The Monadic Universe. I've read one book of his that was not very good, and then a trilogy of his right here, the Omega Point trilogy, which I loved at the time, but I suspect is not actually that great if I reread it now. Although I do have fond memories of it. It had some interesting ideas. And this just sounds like it's not necessarily a generation ship story, but it is humanity on a ship far from home, and they start getting attacked by figments of their imagination or something. Something's pulling things out of their imagination, and they are having to fight it to stay sane, kind of thing. Yeah, the last survivors of humanity battle with a deadly enemy, fragments of reality created from their own fantasies, while trapped in hyperspace. And really cool, I like that cover art. This is an Ace book. First printed in 77, but this was printed in 85. And the cover art is by Colin Hay. Not necessarily familiar with that name. I might have to look him up. Here's one I was super pleased to find. This is C.L. Moore's Northwest Smith. I already have all of these stories in a Masterworks, you know, a modern Masterworks Gollancz copy. But this is awesome to have. It's, you know, it's got, I guess, yeah, quite a creased spine, but overall it's in good condition. I absolutely loved these stories, even though they are a bit repetitive. So yeah, here's my Masterworks copy, which they're nice, but they're also annoying. They have no table of contents. So I can't confirm that it's all the same stories. I feel like there's more stories in this. I feel like there's a lot more stories in this, like twice as many, but I just have terrible memory, no doubt. So there's the stories. I like the Northwest Smith stories very much, even though they're kind of all the same. Where Northwest Smith gets involved with some kind of vampiric entity. But I really enjoyed these. So I love having this. It will sit on my shelf proudly. Next, I've got 3 Barry Longyear books. I recently read a short story collection of his, and Enemy Mine was in it, which I really enjoyed. What else did I read? I feel like I read more than that. I don't know. My memory is terrible. I have a few here. This is actually the sequel to that Enemy Mine story, The Tomorrow Testament. I was quite happy to find this because I remember I read the short story, then I looked this up. I was excited to find out that there was a related novel. But then I forgot all about it. So finding this was a nice surprise. It is a, what is this, Berkeley? Yeah, Berkeley from 1983 with, you know, an uncracked spine. I'm really happy to have that. Then also a fantasy novel by him, which would be interesting. I haven't read any fantasy by him. The God Box, which I believe involves like a low-life thief coming into possession of some sort of box that gives him whatever he wishes or something, from what I remember. And again, a nice uncracked spine. This is a signet. And one more by him, a novel of the future dealing with overpopulation. It's called Sea of Glass. It's got some epic cover art and again an uncracked spine. Super happy to have this. Very Long Weir was brought to my attention by Ira at SF Words of Wonder when he read Circus Planet or the circus related stories, which I think I've been able to find one or two of those books. But when I found other books of his, I read them, and that's when I got really into Very Long Year. So now I've got a few more to add to the shelf. Got a Old Penguin, Fred Hoyle, October the 1st is Too Late. I can't remember the synopsis for this, but I'm not entirely interested with it from what I remember. Yeah, I think it's an alternate history where all sorts of different things are happening from different times simultaneously, kind of. Like ancient Rome is back, World War II is still being fought, World War I. Yeah, I've not read, what have I read of Fred Hoyle? Short stories, I guess. I want to read The Black Cloud. Actually, I just read a Fred Hoyle short stories, like 3 pages long, recommended by Richard, who just reviewed. He reviewed Element 79 by Fred Hoyle. And what was the story in here that was super short with a twist ending that I quite enjoyed? Agent 38. I think it was Agent 38, yeah. It was pretty good. So at this point, I have a growing collection of his books. Then a Michael Moorcock from one of his trilogies, but this was written under his pseudonym, Edward P. Bradbury. I knew this was his book, and I was kind of disappointed to see that the previous owner had scratched out the pseudonym and put his name in pen. Kind of ridiculous. This is a Lancer? Yeah, this is a Lancer book. I think it's the second in the trilogy. It certainly has a 2 up there. It's got the purple text block. Probably I will hold on to this in hopes of finding the others. At a guess, this would be kind of a Edgar Rice Burroughs pastiche, maybe? Yeah, there's the others. So that's cool. I just wish it wasn't, you know, written in pen, but it's a rough condition book. I would never probably sell it anyway. Another I was happy to find, Henry Kuttner's Clash by Night, which is the prequel to Fury. So I don't think you have to read it first, but probably I would. And then eventually I will get to Fury. We changed our living room around, which resulted in moving this hardcover bookshelf right up against the paperbacks. So my library actually looks huge now, and I can actually grab hardcovers when I need to refer to them, which is pretty cool. And I was on a mission during this day of shopping around for books to find some Silverberg, and I got lucky. I found some, although these I had to pay for at a different bookstore. So the majority of these cost $5 to $7 each. I got Thorns, which I'm not... The subject matter does not really appeal to me. It sounds kind of sick and twisted, but I'm sure Silverberg will write an interesting tale. This is a Ballantine from '67. I think this copy is from '73. I got his The Masks of Time, which I think involves some entity coming from the future or something. And then people questioning if he's legit. From my 3-day-old memory of reading the synopsis, I think that's mostly right. Not one I have heard anybody talk about. Then we have something he's, was well known for, one of his more popular stories. Nightwings. This is a Tor double, though. So on the other side, we've got The Last Castle by Jack Vance, which I might have that actually in paperback or something. But yeah, one of his better known stories with some really neat cover art there. This I was happy to find too. I imagine this is one of his lesser works. It's from pretty early on in his career. This is an ace double, The Planet Killers. I paid... Oh, this might be one I got for free from the other store. I could not resist getting this because this was printed in 1959. And actually, it's cool. The inscription here is, to Lee Brackett and Edmund Hamilton, world wreckers without equal. I don't know if Lee Brackett wrote a lot of world-ending stories, but I know Edmund Hamilton was quite famous for destroying so many solar systems early on in the pulp age. But for a book printed in 1959, it's in pretty good shape. And what's on the other side is something I'm actually not totally uninterested in. It's Poul Anderson's We Claim These Stars. So that's pretty cool, but I will put it on the Silverberg shelf because God knows I got enough Poul Anderson on the shelf and in storage. So that one's cool. And then one more from him. I've never heard anyone talk about this. It certainly has the appearance of one of his lesser works. It's The Longest Way Home, which I think involves some sort of revolution when this prominent but young figure of the aristocracy or something is far from home during a revolution or something. So I think it's, science fantasy, but it's the themes that Silverberg has woven throughout it that sound interesting to me, as with I'm beginning to learn all his work. An author I should not have put off for so long, but I've read short stories of Silverberg's and liked, but it was the first novel of his I tried was Kingdom of the Wall or something, which again was one of his lesser works, and I was not into it, and I let that affect my judgment of him for a couple of years. So we got a few more now. Isaac Asimov's Forward the Foundation. Not particularly interested in reading this. I've read the other Foundation books, but I am a completist with most series. This is something I'm surprised I don't have. So that'll go on the shelf. And then his last collection of short stories and also some essays and thoughts of his. This is Gold by Harper Prism, I believe. Yeah. Harper Collins. No, Harper Prism, yeah. And yeah, I believe this was his last collection. The final and crowning achievement of the 50-year career of science fiction's transcendent genius. I wouldn't be surprised if he wrote that himself. But yeah, this has, the last third is just a lot of thoughts and essays on his writing and how to write and stuff. So that might be interesting, but this is the kind of thing that I would maybe never even read. But it's cool to have. We got three more. Recently I saw Steve the Outlaw Bookseller had his good friend Graham back for a Grumpy Old Men talking about science fiction. They talked about Storm Constantine, who I've not read. I couldn't find anything by her that they spoke of or that I had previously looked up, but I did find Sign for the Sacred, which is a big old fantasy novel. It does not sound anywhere near as appealing as her other stuff that I looked up or heard about, but I'll hold on to it and give it a try at some point. And we'll round out with two old classics. I have this old Berkeley, a copy of H.G. Wells' The War of the Worlds, which has quite the spine lean, but is otherwise not too bad. I have not read this, and I mean, I have copies of it in anthologies, but it's cool to have a paperback version of it. This was printed in '64, and I quite like the vintage cover right there. And then the last one, I'm a little confused because there was 2 copies of this. Ah, I'm looking now. I have forgotten a handful of books over there, but nothing particularly interesting, so I'm not even going to bother having them in the book haul. There was 2 copies of this, and this is the one I decided to keep. The other one was abridged, but they were both from Scholastic Library editions of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. I just like this old little copy. I don't think it's abridged because the other one says it is. This one doesn't. Nice uncracked spine, cool lettering and coloring, and something I've always been curious about. I want to read Jules Verne. This is printed in October 1975. And it's got at least one little illustration. I will grab one thing that's kind of interesting. So this is the first edition fantasy of David Gemmell's Legend, and it's kind of a big trade paperback by Cornett, I think. No, Century Publishing. And I didn't think much of it. It was only $1, so I grabbed it. I thought I might sell it online. Turns out these first editions, especially this first printing with this particular cover art, is kind of hard to find. There's one on eBay, possibly 2, that are ridiculously priced. So I'll probably undercut them by a huge amount and put that on eBay. But I thought that was cool once I looked it up. I do have this trilogy of his. I think this was the book and the trilogy that kind of made his name and got him, you know, recognized in the field kind of thing. So that's cool to have, something destined for eBay. But that's it. Another book haul. I am reading things slowly. I'm just struggling with the no sleep. But I am currently reading, I don't think I'll finish it tonight, but No Blades of Grass, or The Death of Grass, as it was its original title. American publishers changed it to No Blade of Grass, but this is dark. I'm really enjoying it. It is giving me serious Thomas M. Dish, The Genocides vibes. I don't know why I like that. Maybe I should get some counseling or something. I don't know why I enjoy these sick, twisted people losing their humanity in extreme situations, but it's a damn good read, just like The Genocides. So far, it does not top The Genocides, but things are really heating up near the end of this, so we'll see how we get along with it. But yeah, as always, thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.